Hey everybody, it's Jeff and welcome to our Tuesday night live stream. As usual, we have our expert producer Jill joining us, who's going to help us lead the way. She'll cover off a lot of the questions that have been written in, as well as the questions that are in the chat box. Now, before we begin, I need to read a disclaimer because this is required by the state of New York. Many of the questions we cover here are nuanced. We'll do our best to answer them, but our responses are meant to be directional, not exact. Your situation may require more details than we can get in a live stream. The live stream is for educational purposes only. We also haven't had the chance to speak with you one-on-one, so please treat this information as general guidance, not advice to act on. For anything specific to your situation, make sure you talk with a qualified professional. Speaking of qualified professionals, if you have questions about Medicare, give our trusted partner a call, chapter 440-703-1224, to see if they can help. Having said all of that, I'm going to pass it over to Jill to lead the way. Go ahead, Jill.
Thank you, Jeff. And just a reminder, as always, we love to take your questions live. So please do put your questions into the chat box as they pertain to Social Security, and we will take those. We did have a really, really big response to our email for questions. So a lot of questions did come in, and we still have some left over from last week as well. So we'll try to get to some of those as well. So until we see them live in the chat box, Jeff, I think we'll start with our questions that were emailed in. And the first one is coming from Cindy. She has two questions. So first question is, my husband and I both claimed Social Security at 62 and will turn 65 next year. We each have 401ks currently invested in money market funds. Should we roll the 401ks into IRAs, either entirely or partially? We also plan to withdraw a small amount at 65 for personal use.
Sure. Well, a lot of that depends on two or three things. First is, what are your costs associated with the 401k versus the IRA? What are your investment options in the IRA versus the 401k? And what additional liability you're taking on by moving your money out of a 401k and into an IRA, because the liability changes and you have different types of protections. You go from ERISA protections in a 401k to state level protections in an IRA, usually anyway, not always, but usually. It depends on how you do it. So it's not an automatic yes, and this is more of a nuanced question, because a lot of times people will leave their money in the 401k for the reasons that I just mentioned. So do an analysis, find out what you're paying in fees, find out what your investment options are, and that's probably the best place to start.
All right, great. So Cindy also had a second question, which was, we're planning to downsize soon and expect the gain on our home to be less than $100,000. We've heard about something called an absolute protection trust. Could this protect the proceeds from the sale, and should we speak with an attorney?
Well, absolute protection trust isn't a standard federal tax or estate planning term, so I would speak with an attorney and make sure you understand what it is that you're moving your home into. It in fact, it's the first time I've heard it, and I'm pretty good with this stuff. So talk to an attorney, see what they say, and they'll give you a much better guidance than we can give you here on a live stream about Social Security. I will say that there's probably a different name for what you're talking about, which is more commonly used, and perhaps the person who gave you this name was referring to something else. I think that's quite possible.
All right, so some questions are starting to roll into the chat box. Thank you for those. JTSE9JC is asking, if you take Social Security at 62, at 64, can you pay it back and get it later at 70?
If you take Social Security at 62, can you pay it back later?
Well, then at 64, can you pay it back and then get it later at 70?
No, you have you have a one-time option to pay it back, and that's within the first 12 months of taking Social Security. There is a one-time do-over provision, and that allows people who've filed for Social Security to change their mind effectively, and you have to pay back everything that you've received, including any premiums that were used to pay for Medicare Part B, if they were in fact paid out of Social Security. So it's a total payback, but it is within the first 12 months, and you get to do it one time.
Okay, Scott Holt is asking, can you tell me how far back they index your top 35 years of earnings?
I've seen it back to the 70s, I suppose. I think the example I usually use on here is what happens. What does it look like if you earn $10,000 in 1986? This should give you a good example of how far back you can go. In 1986, if you earn $10,000, there's a 4.06 multiplier in 2026. 4.06, 4.07, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so your $10,000 becomes $40,000. But it doesn't stop in 1986. My guess is that for most people, there will be a multiplier as far back as you started working.
Okay. Music Spot is asking, do you have to worry about RMDs if you only have under $150,000?
I suppose it depends on a number of different things. Some people never touch their retirement investments. In fact, there was a study done by JP Morgan, and it showed, now remember the group that they're talking about. People that bank with JP Morgan or Chase generally have, if you were to say, and this isn't a generalization, but if you think about it intuitively, if you had your funds at a local credit union, like my dad does, he's in the military, and that my dad, he was a reasonably high-ranking military officer, and he has a decent amount of money, I suppose, in the credit union, but he wouldn't have it at JP Morgan. So the reason I'm bringing that up is the survey that was done with using JP Morgan data said that about 85% of the people that were approaching RMD age had never touched their retirement investments. Now, how could that be? Well, it could be a pension. It could be a partner that's still working. There are a lot of reasons you could do it. You could also have money in a Roth, or you could have money in a taxable brokerage account. So you take those first. It's not generally the way people would do it, but you could. I suppose it depends on your specific situation. So the answer to the question is it depends. It depends on your other income. It depends on if you really need the funds. The implication is that you're going to take the money out anyway, so it shouldn't be a problem. And so maybe at age 73, I believe you have to take out 126.5. Is that a thing? A 126.5? 126, just a little over 126 of your balance. And so for $150,000, probably wouldn't be a lot of money, but it's something that is very individual. So it'll depend on your specific needs and whether you actually need the money or not.
All right, let's take a question that was emailed in from Richard. He's asking, I'm 68, retired and collecting Social Security. My wife is 66 and still working. Can she collect a spousal benefit while she continues working? Would her earnings reduce her Social Security?
If she's 66 today, then her full retirement age is age 67, and she's subject to the same full retirement age rules as as anybody else, which means that if she's working and collecting Social Security, she's going to have earnings thresholds. And if she goes beyond those earning thresholds, she's going to have to give back part of the earnings. This, and I've shown this to a lot of people, is my Social Security quick guide for 2026. And you'll see here that there are 3 columns. Column number 1 is the percentage that people earn, or the percentage that they receive from their own benefit. Column 2 from the spousal benefit. Column 3 from the survivor benefit. So what you'll see here is if you're at age 66, your partner would get 45.83% of the spousal benefit. However, if they go beyond the earnings limits in this year, they'll have to give part of it back. This is the full retirement age. If this is the calendar year where they reach full retirement age, then they can earn more. But basically, there isn't really a provision until you reach full retirement age where you can just have unlimited earnings.
All right, Jada H. Moore is asking, September 1st, if she files for Social Security on her earnings record, which is $1,017, can she later file on my earnings record at her full retirement and receive my full amount?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Would you repeat that?
Yes, September 1. If she files, so this must be a spouse because it does change people here in the midst. If she files for Social Security on her earnings record, 1,017, can she later file on my earnings record at her full retirement age and receive his full amount?
Okay, I think I know the question. Let me rephrase it. And the question, I believe, is if she is the lower earner and she files for her own Social Security payment early and then later qualifies for the spousal benefit because her spouse needs to have filed for Social Security and she switches to the spousal benefit, does she get the full spousal benefit? And usually the answer is no, because the benefit is higher. Otherwise, you wouldn't switch. And you started one benefit earlier at a reduced rate, so something less than 100%. The example that I usually use on this live stream is, let's just take an extreme example. You've got spouse A that has $1,000 a month benefit at full retirement age 67, let's say, but they file at age 62. And so at age 62, that $1,000 a month is $700 a month. They fast forward, now they are full retirement age and their spousal benefits $1,500 a month. $1,500 is more than $700 or $1,000. And the requirement to get the spousal benefit is that their partner files for his or their own benefit. When that happens, then that opens up the spousal benefit. So if they would have gotten $1,500 at full retirement age, but they took their own benefit early and they took a $300 reduction, approximately $300, and I use the word approximately because it's not exact math, because there's slightly different multipliers for the spousal benefit and the primary insurance amount. The approximately $300 would come off of the spousal benefit. So that $1,500 would be approximately $1,200. The closer you get to full retirement age, the smaller that gap is.
Okay. Mike D is asking, if a single man already collecting Social Security at full retirement age marries a woman also collecting Social Security at the full rate after her former husband dies, if she passes, would the new husband get her higher Social Security rate?
Well, if the question is, would the new husband get her old survivor benefit? No, but the new husband potentially would qualify for a survivor benefit on her earnings, and that a lot of it depends, just like I said before, on how much he's earning, how much she's earning. But the survivor benefit is a wonderful benefit. I've said this a lot, in many ways anyway, because it allows someone to collect either their own benefit or their partner's benefit, but they can't collect both. And potentially, if the question isn't can he collect her survivor benefit that she had up from her ex-husband, or from her deceased husband, the question's about her benefit. Probably there are some requirements, minimum number of you need to have been married for 9 months for survivor benefit. Most people check that box, and then you just compare the options and which way is best for you.
Okay, there seems to be some chat going on in the chat box about how far back they index your top 35 years and which 35 years of your working years are actually the ones that are counted. And what if you've already started taking, but you're working and you have a high earning year? Which are those years?
All right, so let me break it down for everybody. The SSA will take your best 35 years, and those best 35 years could be over a 50-year period. You could have had a great construction job for 10 years and go back to college, and you had 4 years where you didn't earn anything. And you came out and your starting salary was less than the construction salary, but then you built up, and so you've got 35 years. All of that, all of the historical earnings is adjusted by that multiplier before you calculate what the definition of best year is. So that 1986 example I used, 10,000 compared to 40,000 today, they don't use the $10,000 and say, okay, that's less than 15,000 20 years later. They use the 10,000 adjusted to 40,000, and they compare that to the next year's amount adjusted, and then everything is adjusted first, and then they take the best 35 years. And if you happen to be earning while you're collecting Social Security, let's say you're over full retirement age and you can earn as much as you want, then those earnings continue to count as well. And so your Social Security payment will be adjusted. They'll take the 35 best years and they'll add them together, divide that by 420 months, and they'll take that number, and that will be the basis for how your Social Security payment is calculated. And it's fed into a formula. But the best 35 years really are the best 35 years, and they don't have to be sequential. They don't have to be at the end of your career. They don't have to be in the middle of your career. You can have some in the beginning. It's not so good years in the middle. Maybe you were a stay-at-home parent and then you came back into the workforce. It's your best 35 years adjusted to today's dollars using the multiplier. Now, before we get off of this, once you turn 60, the multiplier is 1. And there isn't a calculation beyond 60. It's just whatever it was is what it is.
All right. I see Rocco D1018 only asked a partial question. So Rocco, if you have a question, do put that into the chat box because I don't see one further up that connects what you have in here. All right. So Bubba in Texas is asking, when I file for Social Security, are monthly federal tax withholdings required?
If you're asking, do they have FICA tax taken out of your Social Security payment? No. Do you have to pay tax on Social Security? Potentially. There is a reasonably complicated formula that determines whether you're going to pay tax on Social Security or not. And that formula basically says if you earn over a certain amount of money, then up to 50% of your Social Security payment could be taxable. If you earn more than that, up to 85% could be taxable. It doesn't mean that you pay 85% tax or 50% tax. It just means that it's considered ordinary income, and then it goes through your standard processes for things like deductions, standard deductions, the 65 plus deductions that are out there now, or if you itemize your itemized deductions. It still doesn't mean that you're going to actually pay tax on Social Security, but it means it becomes taxable, it becomes part of your taxable calculation.
All right, good. Amy Wild was saying that you're coming through quiet and I'm coming through loud. Let us know if anyone else is experiencing that. I'm hearing you absolutely the same way I always do. So I'm not sure, Amy, if that is perhaps your internet connection, but if others are hearing that, please do let us know.
And I'll try to speak up. I brought the microphone closer. How's that?
Okay, you sound the same to me.
All right. Well, I'll do what I can.
Okay. Let us take a question from Chris. He's asking, are survivor benefits capped at the decreased higher earners full retirement age benefit, even if that person delayed Social Security until age 70?
Are the survivor benefits capped at the deceased's higher earners full retirement age benefit, even if that person delayed Social Security until age 70? No. Survivor benefits are not the same thing as spousal benefits. Spousal benefits are capped at full retirement age, 50% of the full retirement age benefit if the spouse waits until his or her own full retirement age. But the survivor benefit can go all the way up to age 70 if the deceased waited to claim Social Security until age 70, or if they never claimed and they were at age 70, the SSA will give you that on the date that they passed. So if they were age 70 on the date that you were that they passed, you get the full 124% at age 70 for most people, with the full retirement age of age 67. So that's not capped. What does vary is that when the survivor claims, they could actually reduce that benefit if they're under full retirement age themselves. You can claim the spouse, or you can just claim the survivor benefit as early as age 60, and at age 60 you get 71.5% of the deceased's payment, or you can claim all the way up until full retirement age, where you get 100%. 100% of their payment when they're 70 is approximately 124%. If their full retirement age is age 67, for a lot of people on this live stream, that is the case. It'll be a little more if their full retirement age is less than 67, but by and large, you don't need to worry about the survivor benefit capping if the deceased filed late.
All right, so 97420 Empire 3 is asking, is there any new changes before year end in regards to Social Security?
No. So sorry, I didn't mean to be so forceful with that. There are a lot of rumors out there about things that are happening, and there are bills in Congress about different ways to deal with the Social Security shortfall in 2032. A couple of things that the people need to know. When someone thinks of a bill, they think of something that is almost done and it just needs to get a signature from the president. But the fact is, approximately 2.5% of bills that are out there actually get signed into law. So it's not an almost there type of thing. There's something called the Promise Act out there, which I think is the more likely of the two acts that might actually get signed. The Promise Act basically is a framework for people for politicians to agree that they need to start working on a solution to 2032. There's nothing in the Promise Act that determines what benefits are today. Now, if you want, and this is just the reality of politics, if you want there to be a solution to the shortfall in 2032, you need both parties to support it. And both parties have said that Social Security is sacrosanct. They're protecting retirees no matter what. They've both run on this. You don't have one party that is diametrically opposed to the other on this point. But what you do have is a lack of consensus on what that looks like. So if there's a bill that comes through that proposes raising benefits, and it proposes that you're going to raise taxes on the richest in there and of the people out there, that's one way to do it. Surprisingly, the math doesn't work like you think it would. Then you're going to have a lot more debate than if you have a cohesive group of people that work together to come up with a package that looks similar to what they did in 1983. I actually had a discussion with a reporter about this a couple of days ago, and my comment was no party wants to own a tax increase or a benefits cut. And so what has to happen between now and 2032 is you have to have both sides supporting a package that basically gets people to a point where nothing major is happening to current Social Security recipients or soon to be current Social Security recipients, and the actual impact on taxes is modest. In 1983, we were 2 months away from the trust fund being depleted, and through the Greenspan Commission, or the work of the Greenspan Commission, a group of 9 politicians got together in the end, and they put through effectively what you see today with one additional amendment in the 90s. But the 1983 Social Security Amendment raised Social Security tax from 5.4% to 6.2%, and it set the full retirement age to start moving up in 17 years. So 1983 through 1999, everybody's full retirement age was age 65. Starting in 2000, it started to creep up 1 month a year, and it reaches age 67 for those reaching full retirement age next year. I suspect something similar will happen, but because we are 6 years out, it'd be really hard to handicap if it's going to happen in a year or 2 years or 4 years, or like in 1983, 2 months before the trust fund runs out. But this is the other thing I said to the reporter. If you fast forward to 2032, imagine what happens when you have 70 million people who have their Social Security payment cut by 22%. I said, basically, you're going to have a very large group of those people where this is their entire income or the vast majority of their income, and they're going to be in dire straits. I think that it's unlikely that politicians will let that happen, because the outcome would be quite bad. But I can't guarantee it because I'm not a politician. But if you apply history to the future, every time we were in a big crisis, we've had to deal with it in a bipartisan way, and we did do it. So I think that's the likely outcome, but I can't promise you that.
All right. Thank you for that. Elo has a question, and it's asking, could you explain the projections that Social Security benefits may have to be cut in the future? How large could the reduction be? When could it happen?
I think we just talked about that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess they were related. One was about projecting, and that one kind of answered it. So Patricia is asking, my friend is 61 and estranged from her husband, but they don't expect to divorce. She was a stay-at-home mother and doesn't have enough Social Security credits to qualify on her own record. Her husband is also 61 and plans to wait until 70 to claim Social Security. Can she claim a spousal benefit at 62, or does she have to wait until her husband begins collecting? And if she claims at 62, how much would that reduce her benefit?
Well, she can't claim a spousal benefit until her husband claims his benefit. That unlocks the spousal benefit. Unfortunately, just because they're estranged, there isn't a provision that says that estranged is good enough to be considered divorced. There's a divorced spouse benefit where you can claim benefits as a spouse if you meet certain criteria and you're divorced. And if after 2 years of divorce, you don't need to wait for your partner to claim Social Security. But if you're still married, you can't claim a spousal benefit until the primary insured files for his or her own Social Security benefit.
Okay, Laura B4652 is asking, I turned 65 December 5th with no earned income nor health insurance from an employer to consider. Would it make sense to delay Medicare for 1 month to January 2027 to get a full year of Roth conversion with no IRMA?
That's entirely a personal choice, but me, Jeff Schmidt, I would never go uninsured, not even for a month. And so if I were looking at how I would look at that, I would say I wouldn't wait. The minute you can get coverage, I would get coverage. If it were me, that's some people would advise you, hey, what's going to happen in 30 days? You just never know. So it's something that is a personal decision, but if it were me, I wouldn't do it. I'd do it as soon as I qualify.
Okay. MD Video Home is saying, I am looking to retire early next year in 2027. When should I contact Social Security? And of course, chapter for Medicare options.
Well, you can talk to Social Security up to 4 months before you file for Social Security. Most people are doing it a little earlier now because of staffing at the SSA. And I would talk to chapter where you can file for Medicare up to 4 months before you turn 65. So when you file for Medicare, you can claim, you can do the filing the month that you turn 65 and the 3 months before and 3 months after. I wouldn't wait until after. I would do it before. And any time in that window would be a good time to talk to chapter. But I would recommend you do it before 65.
Okay, DRZ400SY8 has a question. Okay, so a couple plans to retire at 62 and has an RMD concern. Concern with widow's tax at 82. Is it better to both delay Social Security to age 70 and do Roth conversions until 70-ish, or one, take Social Security at 62 and 70 and lower Roth conversion?
For those of you that don't know what a widow's tax is, what they're referring to is if you as a couple earn a certain amount of money and one partner passes, a lot of the stuff that you have in place, which is your IRA, your 401k distributions, a pension in many cases, your Social Security payment, a lot of that is not cut in half. And so because it's not cut in half, you could potentially push yourself up into a higher tax bracket, even though you have less money. You're filing single instead of filing as a married couple filing jointly. So that's what, when someone talks about a widow's penalty, that's usually what they're referring to. That is such a complicated question because we'd need to know what you have in your deferred accounts. We'd need to know if you have a pension. We'd need to know when, if you have a taxable account, if you have a Roth account. So that particular question is something you should seek out professional guidance on. In fact, most of these, before you act on them, you should seek out professional guidance. But this one in particular is someone's gonna have to sit down with you and look at your retirement assets holistically and say, given that specific question and given where the world is on taxes, this is what it would look like. It's not something we can do on a live stream, and I wouldn't even try on a phone call. This is really something you would need a computer to do. But if you want somebody to help you, send me an email at livestream@holyschmidt.com. We have people that we refer to. We don't get paid for it. We just refer out to them, and we have a bank of people, and we can certainly refer you to someone who can help you with this question.
Okay, and I will put that email address into the chat box. I've also put in the link for anyone that would like to gain access to the Social Security Quick Guide that Jeff has mentioned a few times. So you can just go on the holyschmidt.com/quick guide, and that'll be sent to you complimentary. All right, and then that email to ask about a financial planner is at livestream@holyschmidt.com. All right, let's take the next question, which comes from John. He's asking, I'm 68, still working and covered by my employer's high deductible health plan. I'm contributing to an HSA and plan to claim Social Security in January 2027 at age 69 and 3 months. I expect to continue working for another 5 years. I've heard that I need to stop contributing to my HSA 6 months before claiming Social Security. Is that correct?
It is. And this is a question that really a visit to your HR department, they'll have the forms that you need to fill out, but this is something that you don't want to miss on, because if you continue to contribute to your health savings account and you're not supposed to, there's a pretty significant penalty. Head over to, in fact, tomorrow, go to your HR department and have a discussion with them about your health savings account and the timing that you're talking about, because it is August. So September, October, November, December, January, that's 5 months. So it's a conversation you should have ASAP.
And Dr. Z400SY8 is saying, there seems to be interest in a retirement plan like Australia. Do you see this happening in some form, or will the difference be slow and not very impactful?
Well, Australia has something called a superannuation plan, and basically there isn't the concept that we have here of Social Security. Instead, they have required contributions to this superannuation plan from your earnings, and it's not optional. There are sometimes it would be exempt, but it's not optional. And they have a very solid system in Australia. There's no doubt about that. But making a transition to that type of system from a system where you've got 70 million people that have paid into Social Security their entire life would be tough, because how do you take that pool of people and say, okay, we're cutting it off here, and by the way, what funds your Social Security is current payments, and it's not just the U.S. that does that. By the way, it's often been, I've read people calling it a Ponzi scheme. It's not. I think it's 27 countries that have a similar Social Security system to us. Australia just doesn't happen to be one of them. It's a good system though in Australia. It's a very good system, and it works really well.
Okay, this one is a little repetitive, but wondering if you have any slight nuance in your answer, which is from MD Video Home. I will be 67 early next year and plan on retiring from my full-time job that has provided health insurance. When do you recommend I should contact Social Security and of course, chapter for Medicare options.
As far as Social Security or Medicare?
It's asking actually about both. When should I contact Social Security, and when should they contact chapter for Medicare options?
You should contact Social Security. You can file for Social Security up to 4 months before you collect. So I would talk to them 4 months before you collect. You have the runway to do it, so why not do it? And then talk to chapter about the same time, and they can work with you to get you in a plan and make sure that everything's working the way that it should work. And they're great people. They're wonderful to work with. And in fact, I've met a lot of their advisors about 4 months ago. I met something like 30 of them or 40 of them at a company event, and I was just really happy with how committed they are to the company mission. So give them a call when you get close, 440-703-1224, and see what they have to say. But they can start working with you early.
Okay, Joe Winkart is asking, I am 62, and when I look at the Social Security website, it shows what my projections are at age 65 if I claim. Does that projection include the 3 years of COLA adjustments until I reach 65?
No, because no one knows what the COLA adjustments are. Those projections assume that your salary doesn't change, so it uses your current salary, and it assumes that there are no COLA adjustments, so it assumes that this is what it will look like in today's dollars. And just like anything, if I gave you $100 a month today, it's going to be worth more in 3 years. It would be worth more in 10 years and 20 years. But conceptually, people think about income in today's dollars. They don't think about income in 3 years from now dollars, or 10 years from now dollars. So the numbers that you're seeing today are in today's dollars, but they do assume that you continue to earn what you're earning now.
Okay, George Manson is asking, my wife claimed Social Security right at age 62. She made more over her career, but because I'm waiting until at least full retirement age, I believe my benefit will be greater. If I die first, can she claim my spousal? My goal is to allow her maximum coverage.
So I think the question isn't if you die first, can she claim your spousal? I think what you're asking is, can she claim your survivor benefit? And the answer is probably yes. Depends on, I'm assuming that you've met the required minimums, 9 months of marriage. But it really becomes an options decision, because if she's earning more than you, or her Social Security payment is more than you at 62, but yours is more than hers when you claim, or if you don't claim when you pass, then she has the option to keep her benefit and file for the survivor benefit later. She can file for the survivor benefit immediately, but a lot of times, especially with the survivor benefit, a lot of people will claim the survivor benefit and let their own benefit continue to grow if they haven't filed for their own benefit. So a lot of that depends on the very specific situation that you're talking about. But to answer your original question, she can claim, or she would be eligible for a survivor benefit, assuming that she meets the minimums. Most people do.
Okay, Stephen Ockley is asking, if at age 57 I were to retire and Social Security estimates my full retirement age benefit is $2,500, in 10 years, when I get to 67, will it still be $2,500, or will COLA and indexed earnings have raised that?
Well, you're going to have two things. You're going to have COLA, which is going to raise it. But I was just talking about this a couple of minutes ago. At age 57, the numbers that you see on the Social Security website assume that you continue to work and earn the same income that you're earning now up until the time that you claim. So you're talking about 10 more years of earnings. If you don't have those 10 years of earnings, your number might not be what you see on the website, even if there was no COLA adjustment. There's no COLA adjustment on the website. So you'll need to determine if you have your best 35 years and you wouldn't earn more than you're earning now to determine if that number is accurate. It's probably not accurate. The closer you get to the age at which you claim Social Security, the more accurate that number becomes.
Okay. Robert Tash, I would recommend you send your question into livestream@holyschmidt.com, and so very sorry for your loss. Okay, because that one it's more personal, and I think it will be best handled in that way. Okay. Oh, James is mentioning that he is really getting a lot out of your quick guide. So for anyone that does want to gain access that may have joined after I had already put this in the chat box, I will put that in again, and you can just click on that link, and you will get a copy sent to you. All right, let's take a question emailed in from Jody. She's asking, my husband is 77 and claimed Social Security at 62. I'll turn 62 in January, and I'm considering claiming at 62 or 63 so we can enjoy more travel while we're both healthy. How would claiming early affect my spousal benefit now and my survivor benefit later?
So there are two different things to think about here. Your spousal benefit is based on the age that you claim the spousal benefit, not the age in which your partner claimed their own primary insurance amount. So if you waited until you were age 67 to claim the spousal benefit, then you're going to get 50% of the spousal benefit, assuming that your partner hasn't already filed. The minute your partner files and you file for the spousal benefit or your own benefit, you're going to get the larger of the two, and then that's it. It's called dual entitlement. But if your partner has not filed, and to be candid, if your partner is 77, they've filed, then you're going to be in a dual entitlement situation, and you'll just get the larger of the two.
Okay. All right. Ellen is asking, if I retire from work at 67, but wait until 70 to claim Social Security, will I still receive the age 70 amount shown on my Social Security statement, or does that estimate assume I continue working until 70?
It assumes that you continue working until age 70, but the difference starts to become less and less material the closer you get to the age. The difference between age 67 and 70 in terms of your benefit payout, in many cases anyway, is far less significant than the difference between, say, age 62 and 65. And the reason is because as you approach those last few years of before you file, you've accumulated 35 years, sometimes more than that. And so you have a lot of people have 35 really good years of earnings. But the farther you are away from the number, the more likely it is you're going to miss what you see on the SSA website. The SSA website isn't perfect. And so it's important to know that what you're looking at is an estimate. It's a good estimate based on some assumptions, but one of the assumptions is that you continue to work and you're earning what you're earning now.
Okay, we have a lot of conversation going in. I'm just moving to the next question. I believe this is here. All right, Denise Diet is asking, I'm 25. I have 25,000 in a brokerage IRA. I also have a Roth, but I can't contribute since I very little earned income in 2026. Oh, so this will not be Social Security. Can I do a Roth conversion since my income is low?
You're 25 and you want to do a Roth conversion? Yes. I would probably spend a lot more time focusing on building your accounts rather than thinking of, at age 25. I would spend a lot more time focusing on building your accounts and your net worth, because there are periods of time for people where Roth conversions actually work better. One of them is when they retire, but before they start drawing Social Security, or before they reach a point where they're taking required minimum distributions. Typically, those are the lowest income years. It's not a bad idea to contribute to a Roth early on, because your tax rate is pretty low, at least for most people. But I'd spend a lot more time focusing on building those accounts.
Okay, Robert Provost. I think I can read this question. I'm not sure it is worded in a question, but you'll let me know. I'm 71 and took Social Security when I was 67. My wife is 15 years younger than I and now makes more than I ever made. Should I take her Social Security when she turns 62?
If your question is, should you take the spousal benefit, you're entitled to the spousal benefit once she files for her own benefit, but she needs to file for her benefit first before to unlock the spousal benefit. And it's just a straight math question, really. And which one gives you the most income? Also, if incorporated into that is, does she want to file for Social Security at age 62, or does she want to let her own benefit grow? The spousal benefit is a benefit that a lot of people rely on, and a lot of people have, it's their only income. And so for those people, that it's a different situation, but you have your own income. And so it's in many cases, it's a dual decision. Her, when she takes her own benefit, to unlock your benefit or the spousal benefit. And it's not a one answer. It really depends on a lot of different things. On my course, Social Security Simplified, we actually have 25 separate questions that we ask the people to answer to help them calibrate when is the best time to take Social Security. So if you can imagine 25 different questions, without a lot more data, it's hard to give you a very specific situation. But I will tell you that you'll have options. But the one thing the one thing that you need is, for the spousal benefit, you need her to file for her own benefit before you can file for the spousal benefit, to unlock the spousal benefit. But that's your right to have the spousal benefit. You're entitled to it.
Okay, Larry's asking, as long as I keep working, currently age 67, my Social Security will continue to increase until 70 or beyond if I keep working? So will my Social Security continue to increase until 70 or beyond if I keep working?
Potentially. The age isn't so much the issue as whether it's one of your best 35 years or not. If you have 35 good years already, and let's just say that you decided, as a lot of people do, that they don't want to work full time anymore at age 67 or 70 or whatever your date is, but you like what you do. And so you go to your boss and say, look, I don't want to do this full time, but I can add a lot of value here 2 or 3 days a week. Your boss says, hey, I love the idea. We don't have to pay for health insurance. We don't have to pay for 401k contributions because you moved to part-time. We'll give you half. Now all of a sudden you're not making 1/35 of that your bigger number anymore. It's not one of your 35 best years. So will that impact the size of your Social Security? No, because it's not one of your best 35 years. But if you continue to earn more, and a lot of people do, as they approach the point where they leave their job, if you continue to earn more, and that more helps the bad years roll off, and you have more and more good years in that pool of 35 years, then it should increase your Social Security payment. Sure.
Okay, you answered a question just recently from Robert Provost where he said, I'm 71 and took Social Security when I was 67. My wife is 15 years younger than I and now makes more than I ever made. Should I take her Social Security when she turns 62? He then was asking, well, so should she actually take her Social Security when she turns 62?
Yeah, that's actually what I was trying to say. That's an entirely personal decision for the family unit. When you think about the reasons people take Social Security, there used to be a chart on the SSA website, and it was the only published, as far as I know, the only published method for deciding when to take Social Security. It was the break-even method. And people today still talk about this as the holy grail of when to take Social Security. And basically the concept is, if you have longevity and you think you're going to live past a certain age, well, then you want to delay because you're going to get a higher payment. But the break-even method doesn't take into account anybody's particular finances, whether they want to travel when they're still young and they have the energy to do it, whether they want to maximize the survivor benefit. There are a lot of reasons outside of extracting every last dollar. And so when you frame this and you think about what's most important to you, there's a lot more that goes into it. And some people just need the money. That's another one. Life's been hard and I need the money and I'm going to do it. Is it a great reason? It's a decent reason. I could probably find a way to, if I had somebody in a discussion with them one-on-one, help tweak that a bit, but it's a decent reason. It's as valid as any other reason, I suppose. So taking it at age 62, in this case, maybe one of the reasons for doing it is to unlock the spousal benefit. You have to think as a couple when you're thinking about making these decisions, if you're married, because they do work hand in hand with each other. Survivor benefits, spousal benefits, travel. If you have enough money as a couple, what do you want to do? There are a lot of decisions. It's not just break even.
Okay. G Molly is asking, can I trust the online process to file for benefits or should I call?
I appreciate the question, actually, because that would be something I would say. You can trust the online process as far as you can trust any online process. It's more efficient to do it online. If you do it online early enough, you can still call and just kind of check in if you haven't gotten any answer. So maybe you start with filing online and then check in 3 or 4 weeks later. Good question, though.
Okay. How are Social Security and Medicare affected when one moves overseas, say to Europe?
Social Security usually is unaffected. The example I give, it's usually unaffected if you're a U.S. citizen anyway, unless you move to North Korea or something like that, where there's a prohibition on making payments into. I think there are 7 countries in the world where the U.S. won't send money. Maybe there are a few more now, but there were 7 at one point. Outside of that, you can just direct the funds to a international bank and then just to withdraw it in whatever country you're in, I suppose. If you are not a U.S. citizen, there's some additional requirements. One of them is that you need to be in the country for a period of time every 6 months. In a lot of circumstances, not every circumstance, but in a lot of circumstances anyway. As far as Medicare, Medicare has very limited coverage outside the United States. There's some. And so a lot of people, if they're outside of the US, they'll get a local health insurance policy. And a lot of times they're super cheap. It depends on where you go. I was in Portugal last year at this time, and health insurance there is really inexpensive. But if you were to go to France, you might find it's a little bit more expensive than Portugal. So that's a long-winded way of saying the Social Security is pretty portable. Medicare, not so portable.
We are at the top of the hour, but a quick one from Greg Linka asking, any chance that the government will raise the income limit for retirees between 62 and 67?
Raise the income limit for retirees in terms of, I'm sorry, what's the question? Are you talking about the maximum income?
Or raise the income limit for retirees?
Oh, the retirement age. They can't do it without voting on it. And so right now, the retirement schedule that was put out there finally reaches full retirement age at age 67 next year. I suppose they could continue up. I don't think it's likely. I think that what will end up happening is if there's going to be a raise in full retirement age, if it looks like 1983, it'll be done in a phased-in process starting at some point in the distant future, and there will be other things associated with it. Because what you're asking, I think, is the how to keep Social Security from the trust fund from running out of money, and that could be one possible option, but it's not the game changer. There's in order to fix Social Security, you either need more tax or less benefits, and so by raising full retirement age, you're by default you're saying less benefits. The last time they did that was in 1983, and they waited 17 years before they started to phase it in.
All right, we are at the top of the hour, a little bit over. I know you had mentioned, Jeff, about your course, Social Security Simplified. So I just wanted to mention, check in the chat box. I did put the link to gain access if anyone wants to check that out. And when you are on live with us, you do get a coupon code. You just put in 60 and then uppercase OFF 60 off, and you will receive $60 off the course. All right. So thank you all for being here and all your interaction in the chat box. We really appreciate it. Jeff, I will turn it back over to you.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us again this Tuesday night. Got some great questions throughout the hour. And for those of you whose questions we didn't answer, send them to us in live stream at holyschmidt.com, and we'll start with those next week. For those of you that had other questions that you couldn't really ask on the live stream, I'll take a look at those tomorrow and see if I can get back to you. Jill, thank you so much for your expert guidance throughout the last hour. And everybody, thanks for staying up late with us. 8 o'clock here in New York. Not sure where you are, but wherever you are, it's after 5 o'clock if you're in the US, except for Hawaii. So with that, we'll end it and see you in 7 days. Bye, everyone.